What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Happy Wednesday. This is your midweek motivational video. I hope you guys are having a productive week so far and a productive day. This is coming to you around lunchtime, so I hope you guys are enjoying your lunch breaks. If you are home, I hope you are enjoying, getting some rest, doing some self-care. I am still working on my time management. I want to try to get my videos out possibly early in the mornings, but it is what it is. Today is a cloudy, rainy day. I was just not feeling it, but we have to push through. We have to push through. And speaking of pushing through, I just want to talk to you guys about, just not allowing yourselves to be swallowed up by your emotions. Sometimes and I talk a lot about this because I feel like it all ties into mental health. And I just feel like mental health is just now being talked about more than it has. But I don't think that it's still being talked about enough. So I dedicate my motivational video for those of you who care to listen, for those of you who just need a pick-me-up. I personally know what it is to be depressed and have anxiety and be in my thoughts and, have my emotions go up and down. So I feel like it's really important to let people know that, as someone who has suffered from anxiety and depression, like I know what that feels like. I know what it is to be in a dark place. I know what it is to be consumed and surrounded by your emotions and your thoughts and feeling like you don't know how to get out of it. So I always just encourage you guys, anything that has to do with mental health and just taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally and physically. I always want to take this time in my motivational videos to just encourage you all. So sometimes we do get consumed by, thoughts in our heads. And sometimes it can be family, it could be friends, it can be relationships, it could be work, it could be not knowing your purpose, it could be whether you're doing enough or you're not doing enough, whether you're good enough or not good enough. And it's easier said than done. It's a process that you have to find within yourself to do. I feel like it's really, really important that if you find yourself in a position where you're constantly in your head, you're constantly being consumed by your thoughts, you're constantly emotional and you don't know how to get out of your emotions, or, you don't know how to kind of bounce back from it. You've got to do your research, you've got to read, you got to seek therapy. There is a way out. There is a way to help get you out of that, but you have to want that for yourself. You can't give someone else the responsibility of healing you. I mean, and that's not, that's taking, therapists and stuff out of the equation. What I mean is, if you have a best friend, or you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, wife or husband, your happiness is your responsibility. So they can be there to aid you through the process. They can be there to help you, but they can't do that for you. You have to want it and do it for yourself, because whether you're married or you're in a relationship or you have friends, these people can walk out of your life at any given moment. You still have you to deal with. You still have to live this life. You still have your own heart to heal, whether you are in a relationship or not. And I have said that all the time. Like, I've been in relationships where I've gone through anxiety and things like that, and I've kind of leaned on them, to kind of help me through it. But at the end of the day, they can walk out and it's still me that I have to deal with. So I want to just encourage you guys to find it within yourself to want to change that about you. Find it within yourself to want to get out of that funk, to get out of that dark hole that you're in, to get out of that depression, to get out of that anxiety. And I can speak off of personal experience that I have gotten myself naturally out of anxiety and out of having panic attacks, because I first decided that, the first step was that I didn't want to be there. That's something that I, continuously said to myself, is that this is not where I'm supposed to be. I am not supposed to allow anxiety to be in the driver's seat of my life. I am not supposed to allow anxiety to run me, to run my life, to run me down into the ground. This is not what life is about. So I took it upon myself to dedicate myself to getting out of that, whatever it was that made me anxious. Like anything that stressed me out, I did everything I could to protect my peace. And I suffered with anxiety for probably over 10 years. So anybody out there who understands what that is tough. It's one thing to, it's funny because people throw around that word anxiety sometimes as a joke or as something light. You could be at work and you could be consumed, by the workload that you have, and you could be like, this is giving me anxiety. But you really don't know what having anxiety is. You just feel stressed, and that's what comes out of your mouth. But you really don't know what it feels like to have anxiety, the feeling of not being in control. For me, a lot of my anxiety attacks used to happen behind the wheel. And I used to always feel like I was in danger whenever that happened to me. So, and it was so bad. Like sometimes I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I had fatigue. I constantly carried literally like 24 pack cases of water in my car because I didn't feel safe without it. I felt like that was my, everybody has their thing that they feel safe with. I felt like as long as I had water, I was good. As long as I had my Xanax, I was good. And it was one of those things where I would be afraid to drive. It would give me anxiety to drive because I would be afraid that I was going to get an anxiety attack. And in turn, I got an anxiety attack by being anxious about worrying about getting one. And it's like a constant cycle. And sometimes I would get, when your muscles tense up, you tend to feel these spasms in your body. And sometimes if you know your body well, you know what it is. If you don't and you suffer from anxiety and you deal with mental health issues, you're going to think that something is seriously wrong. And so sometimes I used to have these spasms that literally crawled up my neck around my head, and I would I would have to pull over because I would think, oh my God, am I having an aneurysm? Something was wrong with me. Something's going to happen, and it would put me into such a big panic that it would cause me to be dizzy. I would get dizzy. I would get lightheaded. I would have this hot and cold flush coming up and down my body. My heart would be racing. I'd get sweaty and cold at the same time. And, all these different things would happen to me. And it was always while I was driving because I had such a busy life. Even now, I can't even think back as to what exactly caused me to begin to have anxiety. All I know is that I woke up in a panic and the room was spinning and I didn't know what it was, and I went to the ER and they told me I had a panic attack. And for a long time I couldn't even sleep at night because it happened to me in my sleep. I couldn't sleep, so I was on sleeping meds. I was on Ambien, and I got addicted to Ambien. And what happened was that I felt so comfortable having these meds that if I knew that I was going to have, if I was afraid to have a day full of anxiety, I would sometimes be walking around like a zombie. So I'd have Xanax all day. 3 times a day I would do. And I knew it down to the science. I was like, all right, it takes about half hour for the Xanax to kick in. The Xanax stays in your system for about 3.5 hours, and after that it wears off. So I had 3.5, maybe 4 hours of taking Xanax every few hours to make sure that I was okay. And then at night I would take an Ambien just to kind of go to sleep. So I was walking around like a zombie. And then eventually I was on Zoloft. If you don't know what Zoloft is, it's an antidepressant. At that point I wasn't depressed, but they used it to suppress my anxiety because my anxiety was so frequent. Eventually, years later, once I started doing my own research, I found tons of, I would literally spend hours in the bookstore just reading up on different ways, different natural ways to cure anxiety. and I would listen to different things to help cope with anxiety. And eventually I took myself off of all of my medication. I told my doctors I wasn't doing it anymore, and they didn't want me to do it, and I did it anyway. Because I remember even when I started getting on these meds, like, I would feel funny and I would have these weird dreams, and it would just make me so uncomfortable. Eventually my body got used to it. It did help, but I didn't want to depend on that. And on top of that, I suffer from Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid disease. So, I had so much happening on top of having a 9 to 5, on top of having a part-time job and going to school at night to get licensed to be a cosmetologist. So I had a very, very busy life. And I didn't have the best relationship at the time either. So I had tons of stress around me. But eventually I came off of everything, and I found, ways to cope with it, and I've healed myself from it. And the very thing that got me to that place was, number one, I've always been a woman of faith, so I believed in God and prayer. But number two, I embedded it in my head that this was not going to be my life. So what I want to encourage you guys to do is to make the decision that wherever you are, if you are having anxiety, depression, mental health issues, that is not the way that your life is supposed to be like. That is not supposed to be running your life. You are supposed to be taking control of that. And it's easier said than done. But the first step is just to make that decision. And then the step after that is to do the work. Do your research. Get some books. Talk to a therapist. Figure out ways and exercises to help you cope with it. And then eventually you can figure out how to deal with it and how to rid yourself from it. Once you begin to have a clearer head as to where these things are coming from and what's causing it, you can begin to subtract the very things that are causing it from your life, be it friends, family, people, places, things, jobs, whatever the case may be. I know people who have quit their jobs because of the stress and anxiety, and they had never been happier after that. They found themselves at better jobs, and these are jobs that have paid them tons of money, have gotten them tons of things, and they decided that their mental health is more important. I've made that decision for myself last year when I quit my job to do YouTube and be a content creator full time. The stress of the job itself was not worth it, and I was getting paid more than I've ever gotten paid ever. And I decided to step out on faith, and I quit my job, and it was the best decision that I've ever made. So I just want to encourage you guys to step out on faith, decide that you are going to be better, do better, you're going to make better decisions for yourself, and do the work that it's going to take for you to get there. So I hope this encourages a lot of you, some of you, even one of you. As long as it encourages you, I feel like I've done my job. As a person who can, who can speak off of personal testimony, who understands what it's like, and who understands that it's a long road, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Leave your comments down below. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoy all of my motivation. I continue to make these happen because I know a lot of you, let me, you guys tell me that you need it. And seeing that really drives me to continue to do these motivational videos, because even though these specific videos don't get as many views as everything else, it helps the people who it's supposed to help. And that's what this is all about. So if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel, hit like, share, go check out my other motivational videos if you enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys later.